All right, welcome back. Let's continue with more news. In fact, further afield, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is facing a major rebellion in his party over flagship immigration legislation to speed up the deportation of asylum seekers to Rwanda. Two Conservative Party chairmen reportedly said that they were ready to defy Sunak by voting to toughen the legislation before parliamentary votes on the plan. Our director at the African Centre for Migration and Society at Wits University, Professor Loren Landau, now joins us to discuss this further. Prof. Loren, good afternoon, and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC at this hour.
It's a pleasure.
Prof, let's backtrack a little bit just to get some context, and perhaps you could help us paint that picture, because we know that the first flight taking asylum seekers to Rwanda was scheduled for the 14th of June 2022. The flight was cancelled due to an injunction issued by the European Court on Human Rights. So perhaps at this point you could first talk to us about why Rwanda was the chosen country for this plan, and what were some of the reasons given by the European Court for Human Rights for denying?
Right. I think what we're seeing in Britain is like we see in South Africa, that migration has really moved to the center of the political debates. And the UK government, the Conservative Party, is looking for a way of addressing this issue by stopping people from coming. They found a willing partner in Rwanda who, for some amount of money, would accept people who had arrived in the UK and were applying for asylum. They would be then flown to Rwanda and processed there, and if they were given asylum, allowed to stay. As you mentioned, this was blocked by the European Court, and since then, since June, has been a central debate within the sort of political space in the UK. And you see at stake here many things. Obviously, the rights of Rwanda, of the people who would be sent to Rwanda, but you also see the future of the Conservative Party at stake, and really the position of the UK in regards to Europe and international law.
All right, Prof, thank you for that context, because then at this point, we're trying to understand whether this policy arrangement is actually going to deter unauthorized arrivals. And when we look at the UNHCR, we've also come out to say that the new UK-Rwanda Treaty, the Safety of Rwanda Bill, are incompatible with international refugee law. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is probably incompatible. I'm not a lawyer, but I think clearly the deportation of people to a country like Rwanda, which is known for its authoritarian government, has no guarantee of providing safety to asylum seekers, is potentially a human rights violation and a violation of law. Will this work to deter people? If they know that they're going to be sent to Rwanda, maybe they won't come. Probably some will be deterred, but others will simply go underground. They will not come forward. They will not ask for asylum, because they do not want to risk going. So it may decrease the number of asylum seekers in the UK, but it's very unlikely to decrease the number of migrants coming to the UK.
Prof, from your vantage point, looking at the Safety of Rwanda Bill, what are the possible scenarios unfolding, the possibilities and probabilities of this passing as well?
Well, I think right now the Conservative Party, the Tories, is in complete disarray. It does seem that the Prime Minister doesn't have the votes to get this passed as it is, because his own party has rebelled. If it does pass, my guess is that the UK government, the courts will fight it, the European courts will fight it, certainly the Labour Party and other parties in the UK will fight it, the UNHCR and others will resist it. Whether it actually happens, I think, is quite unlikely. This is a bit of political theatre. There's an election this year in the UK, and this is a way for the Conservative Party to show that they're doing something. But I think it's very unlikely that this will ever come to pass, and that very few people will ever be sent to Rwanda.
You spoke about costs earlier on. What's the cost of this plan as we speak? What's coming to the fore?
Right. There's been many estimates about how much this would cost and what it would cost per person to send somebody by plane to Rwanda, to pay Rwanda to take care of them indefinitely. I don't have the figures at hand, but we're looking at millions of pounds, far more than it would cost for those people to stay in the UK and be given housing, for example, or some kind of support so that they could work in the UK. It is an enormously expensive initiative, and one of the reasons that people who object to it have said this is in a time of economic crisis, in the UK, this is a terrible use of scarce resources.
Prof, I also wanted to look at really what's at stake. You spoke about migration being at the center in a number of countries, including South Africa and the UK, particularly as we head into elections. What's at stake at large?
Well, I think there is something at stake here, which is about how do Western countries, wealthy countries, welcome people from the global south. As you can see in the pictures, many of the people coming are from Africa, many others from Afghanistan or elsewhere. Presumably now you will start to see Palestinians and others. There is a question here about will the UK, will Western Europe close itself off completely to these countries? I think there's also at stake a debate about what is the role of international law and human rights, and how do wealthy countries, who are the ones who promoted that, the ones who authored it, the ones who have said that this is our solution to resolving the world's collective problems, whether they will continue to be supporters of international law, or whether that is something that will be pushed aside.
No, absolutely, Prof, because I also then wanted to look at Rwanda itself and the safety of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda. In the same breath, you spoke about costs. So I just wanted you to help us understand on that front, what are some of the costs associated with those who then enter Rwanda? What would they be facing in reality?
Well, it's unclear. I mean, Rwanda already hosts a considerable number of refugees and asylum seekers from the Congo, the DRC, for example, and other countries in the Great Lakes area. Some of them seem to be treated well, but there are reports that many of them are abused. Many of them are sort of restrained and kept in sort of restricted housing indefinitely. What's not clear with this bill is what will happen to people who are rejected for asylum. Will they then be sent back to Afghanistan? Will they be sent back to other countries? Or will they just be let loose to wander around Rwanda? There's so many things that are not thought through. And what's clear is that Rwanda has made a sort of verbal commitment to respect their rights. But if we go on their history of how they've treated refugees and asylum seekers thus far, there are real questions about whether they would do that.
Prof, it seems like there are more questions than answers at this point, but thank you for weighing in. We'll leave the conversation there for now. Professor Loren Landau, of course, from Wits University, really just helping us unpack the Rwanda bill vote and what is set to unfold. We're looking at possibilities and possibilities as well. Thank you to him for joining us here on the SABC.